Kenneth Walsh stood at the edge of the casino table, knuckles white, his fist slamming down with a sharp crack. Frustration surged behind his eyes as he fixed a desperate look on the man across from him, Nico, the debonair croupier and the only fence he still trusted. Unbothered, Nico calmly polished his magnifying glass, then folded a black velvet cloth around the object Kenneth had brought, a stone tablet, flawless and ancient, etched with pristine Sumerian inscriptions. After a long moment of silence, he slid it back across the table with a quiet shake of his head.
It's too valuable,
Nico said at last, his voice as smooth as glass and just as cutting.
Too hot, too rare. I don't have a buy that reckless.
Kenneth leaned forward, jaw tight.
Then find someone who is. I can't sit on this.
Nico studied him for a moment, then sighed and retrieved a small card from his coat. No name, just an address scrawled on the back.
Don't say I didn't warn you.
3 hours later, Kenneth was far from the sleepless streets of Dreadford, the tablet bundled under his arm. The Alpine Road had taken him to an opulent resort town, and finally, to an extravagant Rococo estate tucked in the woods like a secret. Everything about it screamed old money, inherited, not earned. At the iron gates, he was greeted by a butler in immaculate attire, just finishing his farewell to a pair of aristocratic guests. The man turned with a smile as polished as his gloves.
May I be of service, sir?
Kenneth handed over Nico's card. The butler's eyes flicked over the address, betraying a flicker of recognition, or something close to amusement, before he stepped aside and gestured Kenneth in. They passed through a vast garden shimmering under the last light of dusk, every hedge and blossom perfectly arranged. Something about the air was too still, too curated. Kenneth didn't trust it. Inside, the butler led him through a marble foyer and down a hallway lined with antique masks and veiled statues.
Esteemed guest, I take it this is your first time at the auction.
The butler asked, his tone silken.
May I ask, are you here to provide a service or to buy?
Kenneth muttered that he was there to list an item. The butler's smile thinned, not unkind but unreadable.
Very good.
After a blur of paperwork and a silent handover of the tablet, Kenneth was escorted to a lavish dining hall where candlelight danced on polished silver. A long table awaited him, already occupied by silent guests dressed in finery from different centuries.
May I have you seated?
Kenneth nodded and took a seat. Beside him sat an elderly gentleman with a long beard, glasses, and a neatly pressed brown suit with a tie. He looked dignified and serious, offering Kenneth a curt, acknowledging nod. Kenneth attempted small talk, glancing briefly at the others in the room.
Hey there, friend. Are you here to buy or sell?
The bearded man looked him over carefully before replying.
Buying. You?
Selling. Lot number 11. I'm Kenneth, by the way.
Stone. Dr. Samuel Stone, Ph.D. How fortuitous.
Just then the butler returned, carrying a bottle of wine and glasses on a silver platter, interrupting Dr. Stone mid-thought.
May I interest you in a refreshment, sir?
The butler asked.
Sure.
Kenneth replied, distracted, barely acknowledging the man as he accepted a glass.
So, Dr. Stone, did you say fortuitous?
Kenneth asked, taking a sip of the wine and nodding his thanks. The butler turned and offered a glass to Dr. Stone.
None for me, thank you, dear sir.
Stone said with a polite smile, before turning back to Kenneth.
Yes, lot 11 is precisely what I'm looking for.
Well, good luck, you doctor. I heard the lady over there is also interested.
Yes, I am aware. We are acquainted.
With a hit of a gavel, the conversation was cut short, and the auction began. Strange objects were unveiled one after another, arcane scrolls, whispering relics, items that defied all natural logic. The bidding was fierce, the prices astronomical. Each sale only heightened Kenneth's anticipation. At last, his item appeared. Auction lot number 11, the tablet. Kenneth sat forward, heart pounding, as the bidding surged instantly. A pale, aloof girl and Dr. Stone drove the price higher and higher, trading glances with veiled disdain. When the girl won, Kenneth could hardly breathe. It was more than he'd hoped for, enough to pay his debts, dissolve his crew, and vanish from the map. For the first time in years, the chaos of his life had a visible exit. The butler returned, smiling wider than before, and handed him a heavy satchel. Kenneth opened it and saw the bills, neatly bound, obscenely generous. But the thrill faded. The butler did not leave. He lingered, gaze sharp and unsettling like a surgeon preparing an incision. Kenneth's fingers began to go numb, then his arms, then his legs.
What is this?
He stammered, but no sound came. His throat tightened, lungs freezing, panic clawed at his chest.
Is something the matter, esteemed guest?
The butler asked, his voice now rich with mock concern. Kenneth's eyes darted to the others at the table, those same silent guests. Now he saw them properly. Glassy eyes, trembling hands, the subtle signs of trapped minds within unmoving bodies. He tried to stand, to cry out, but his limbs would not obey.
In that case, I'll leave you to it.
The butler said with a bow, retreating into the candlelit dark. Time collapsed. Kenneth sat, unmoving, while the auction unfolded endlessly before him. His prize was gone. The satchel still rested in his lap. His body would not respond. He never felt hunger, never slept, never aged. Guests continued to arrive, naive and hopeful, and Kenneth tried, desperately, to scream, to warn them. But no sound ever came. Only silence and the turning of pages, the lifting of plaques, the flow of gold and blood and secrets across the velvet stage. And whenever he fell too deeply into panic, the butler would reappear, leaning in close, his breath cool against Kenneth's ear.
Would you care for anything to eat or drink, esteemed guest?
If Kenneth could have wept, he would have.
Very well. I will leave you to it then.
And the auction went on, endlessly.